Hello and welcome everyone to Numerology Quick Takes. I'm Kimberly Boscheman and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the forecast for the week of June 2nd, 2025. So we've just stepped into the month of June and it sort of starts with a bang. We have this energy of the 23-5 that we're going to be working with this week. So we can really expect a lot of changes, a lot of transformation, the need for unconventionality, the need for progressiveness, and looking at situations and circumstances from a different point of view, and coming up with a better way of doing things, a better way of approaching things. And so, of course, this can play out because this is a universal cycle. This can play out on the grand scale, the global stage, but this can also play out, obviously, individually. And so there could be some situations where you're going to have to take a step back, observe, figure out, where it is that you keep showing up in the same way to something, or with the same mindset, or with the same behaviors, and where you're continuously getting the same results, but those results aren't working, or they're not bringing the satisfaction you're looking for, or they're not helping you to move forward. And those are the areas where this energy is going to say, let's shake things up. Let's try something new. Let's step out of the box that we've been keeping ourselves in and out of our comfort zone to try something new, to try something more unconventional, and perhaps something, again, that hasn't been done before. You might be trying something that you don't have a roadmap for. You don't have a play-by-play. You have to figure it out as you go. And the only way to do that, really, when we're in those situations, is to take it step by step, one step at a time, and sort of survey the land as we take each step to figure out what the next step will look like. Sometimes we can't look far into the future to make the plan, to figure out the plan of action. Sometimes we just have to take a leap of faith, take that step forward, and continue to put one foot in front of the other and figure it out as we go. And so much of life is like this. So this week, things could come to light where you're asked to do exactly that. And it depends on your circumstances as far as how this will come in for you. But maybe you want to change jobs and that, maybe you're not finding what you're looking for in your location, in your present location. And so maybe you need to be unconventional, look outside the box and look somewhere else. And for some of you, that might take you to another state, another country, another culture. And it can be the beginning of a big new adventure. And it doesn't just have to be with, career. It can be with relationships, with, moving from your hometown that you feel safe and comfortable in. But again, you're not getting the fulfillment that you're looking for. You're not able to get that feeling of stepping into purpose. And I will say that we really do step into purpose every single day with our actions, with, our beliefs, and because of course our beliefs drive our actions. And so you might find that you're starting to feel stagnant. You're starting to feel that getting those same results, though it's comfortable because it's known, isn't fulfilling, isn't progressing you forward, isn't helping you, isn't lighting you up, right? There's no passion, there's no excitement, there's just not that feeling of evolution, of growth. And so for some of you, this could be the week that initiates a big new change in your life, a significant change in your life. But a lot of times with this energy, it's not necessarily going to just come in and do it for you. It's going to bring the clarity, and it's that clarity that will start to become very, very uncomfortable if you don't take action from that clarity. So let's say that something comes in and it shines a light on the change that needs to occur. Once you have that awareness, you always have that awareness. So you can keep doing the things that you've been doing, but it's going to keep giving you the same results. And you're going to become increasingly frustrated with those results, right? Because you're not getting the satisfaction that you're really looking for. You're not getting the fulfillment that you're really looking for. Again, even though it's known and it's quote unquote safe. But once you get this clarity about the next steps, the change that needs to occur, it's up to you to take those first steps. It's up to you to take the action to facilitate the change. If you don't do that, then you'll just stay in the same rut, continuing along the same path, feeling the same level of frustration, and probably that frustration will continue to grow. So once the clarity comes in, and again, that clarity doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have clarity for a clear path to the destination. It just means you're going to have clarity potentially for the next step. And that's all that the universe or your soul is asking you to take, is that first step in the direction that your soul is urging you to go towards. And that could look very different than what you're used to. Could look very different than the path that you've been on. But you can either stay, within your comfort zone and continue to get the same results and continue to get increasingly frustrated and uncomfortable in that situation, or you can choose to take the first step in a different direction. And now you might not see that change happen right away, especially if you don't take the first step. But something that is true of human nature is that when the frustration or the suffering becomes great enough, we will then take action towards making change. So it could be that the clarity comes in this week, but you don't feel ready, you don't have the courage, you don't feel confident enough to take that first step. And that's okay. Trust me, it will keep getting increasingly uncomfortable until you're pushed to take that first step. Because once it becomes uncomfortable enough, or once the pull towards whatever this is pulling you towards becomes great enough, you will find a way to take that first step in the direction towards whatever is beckoning you or calling for you. But it's up to you to take that first step. And though this energy is fast moving and it usually can really kind of push us in a certain direction, this is also an energy though that will work with us, right? It will again continuously make it more and more uncomfortable the more we stay in our patterns, especially if those patterns are not working. Because if something's working, you probably won't see a lot of change there because there's no need for it. But if something is not working and you're starting to feel frustrated or stuck or stagnant, that's where this energy will come in very strongly. And again, it's not going to do it for you. A lot of times there can be that divine intervention where it just comes in and completely shifts your circumstances. Now, for some of you, that might happen, right? This is a general reading, but for most people, the clarity will come in and then it's up to you to take make the effort. But it will continue to push and push and push. But again, it won't do it for you. Because true change really only happens when we do it for ourselves, when we take the steps to make the change. It's kind of like when we think about intervention. If somebody has an addiction and we try to intervene, that intervention will only go so far if that person is not ready to make the changes. But once that person becomes ready to make the change for whatever reason, there really is nothing that will stop them. Once we have the will, we have the power. And this clarity that comes in this week can help us to find that will. And then it's up to us to step into that power. But it's not an energy, again, where we can do something for someone in that way, where we can get the clarity like, okay, this person needs to change X, Y, and Z, and they'll have a better experience. We can tell that person that until they're blue in the face, but until they get that level of awareness about their own journey, and until they find that courage and confidence to take that first step, you can't take the step for them. You can push them in that direction, but it's not really sustainable and it's not going to have the effect that you hope that it would. So it's a really interesting energy, but it definitely is honing in on the areas of life where change needs to happen, transformation needs to happen. We need to have a more unconventional approach because what we have been doing is not working. And you can kind of look at this at a global stage, right? Now, I don't know how it'll play out. And this doesn't necessarily mean all of this is going to take place this week. I think this week will bring the clarity of where that change is needed, of where that unconventionality is needed, and where that different approach is needed. And again, we can easily look at the global stage and see where change is needed. But when we're talking about the global stage, that's something that each individual has to do the work and change and move in that direction before we start to see it collectively. So pay attention to what comes up for you this week, pointing out where you need to be more unconventional, where you need a shift in your approach. And it could be that it's other people who bring a new perspective to you this week. And it's up to you whether or not you'll listen to that new perspective. A lot of times when someone, shares advice or gives us a new perspective, it's outside of our comfort zone. It's outside of our reality of what we can see for ourselves. And it takes a lot of work sometimes to be able to open our minds enough to be able to see a different approach. But this week will help us to do that if we're willing. But regardless of whether or not we're willing, it will likely plant the seed. And it will continue to grow that seed until we decide to nurture it and tend to it. And when we choose not to, that's when it becomes really uncomfortable. So again, pay attention to where your life is asking you to be more unconventional, do things differently, be more progressive in your actions, be more open-minded, because that will affect your actions and your outcome and your experience. And there's going to be probably a lot of requirements or requests for taking that leap of faith, going, throwing caution to the wind and saying yes to something you might have said no to before because of, again, not being able to see the full path, not being able to know how it's going to work out, just having to trust yourself, the universe, others, to take that first step, which can be really, really powerful. And the thing to remember is you're taking it step by step. So if you take a misstep, you can always redirect, always. Might be some cleanup involved, might be might take some time to redirect, but you can always change course. Always. That's one of the beautiful things about life. We can always change course. So take the pressure off and throw a little bit of caution to the wind and take that first step. And what I do really love about this energy is, there's sort of this protective energy around us with this vibration. And so it's kind of guiding us. It's a guiding type of energy. So, whether you believe in God or the universe or your spirit guides or your higher self or whatever, there's this sort of unseen energy guiding and helping us to get to the next safe port, so to speak. So in other words, if you take that leap of faith, even if after you take that leap of faith, it feels scary and you feel like you're in uncharted waters, you are being protected and you will get to that safe port, especially because you took that first step. And so it's a really protective type of energy, which guides us towards the next phase in our own personal evolution. And I would even say our collective evolution. Again, it's a short cycle, right? It's only a week long. But I think for a lot of people, this is the period where the seed gets planted. The clarity comes in. So you might not necessarily take that extreme action this week or that next step this week, but the seed's been planted, and so you will likely continue to think about it. And you'll probably continue to mull it over and think about it until you feel ready to take that first step, whatever that might be for you. This is also a really interesting period for really following the advice that you receive from others at this time. And so seek out people who have the wisdom that you're looking for. Seek out the people who have done the things you want to do and who have been successful at it because they have been down that path before. This might be an uncharted path for you and you might be doing it your own way, but there's still going to be someone out there who has gone down this path before, even if their steps look different. So seeking out their guidance, or, if it's someone that you follow on YouTube or you come across on YouTube or a podcast, this is a great time to really listen to what they have to say and extract the wisdom that you can use along the way for your own personal journey and kind of make it your own. right? But this is such a great time to really seek out people who have the experience and the wisdom that you need in order to reach your goals. And if you can do that, and if you can do that with an open mind and be willing to take an unconventional approach if needed, you will reach your goals, even if you don't know what that goal looks like yet. Because again, remember, so much of this energy is about taking the first step, taking baby steps, and continuing to put one foot in front of the other, not being able to necessarily see the full picture just yet. But you will reach that goal, and there will be satisfaction with that goal once you do reach it. Mainly because also by taking it step by step, you are building step by step the foundation and the experience that you want to have, right? You're not rushing to this destination that you have this idea about. You might have the vision for what you want and you're moving in that direction, but you don't necessarily know what it's going to look like at the destination. And working with people who have the experience and the expertise can help you to get there, to achieve that goal, and to really appreciate and be fulfilled by that goal once you get there. For some of you, this could bring in inheritance. This could bring in some kind of material goods through some kind of settlement of an estate or some kind of legal proceedings. Contracts could be fulfilled at this time. You could get new clients, new work that maybe you weren't expecting through some kind of contractual agreement. And that contract, depending on what it is, could alter your life in some way. It could be a pivot point. It could be a pivotal point in your life, in the next chapter of your life. So for some of you, that includes marriage, that includes adoption, that includes, having a baby, you name it. Any kind of whether it's a soul contract or an actual physical contract, it's very possible this week that those contracts could come in that could be life-changing. Even if it's like a contract for work and it's, something that could change the direction of your career in some way. Travel is very much highlighted at this time. So some of the changes that come in for some of you could bring in travel and the need for travel. Maybe not this week, but upcoming. Maybe it's around work. Maybe you meet a long distance partner, something like that. And so travel is going to be required in order to keep that connection alive and fulfilling. It's also interesting too, because for some of you, again, there is this element of good fortune coming in. So finances, resources, money, in uptick of that. And so some of you might be just traveling for pleasure. So you maybe win the lottery and then you want to travel because of that. That is very possible under this influence and under this energy. Now, again, I'm not saying play the lottery and you're going to win. I'm not making any kind of prediction like that. I'm just saying, a lot can happen under this energy. And for some, there is that emphasis on material goods through some kind of winning or settlement or something like that. That's very, very possible. Or inheritance or something like that. And so that inheritance or that influx of money could definitely change your life in some way. And travel might be included in that as well. If you face some kind of opposition at this time, which you probably will because that's just the name of the game with life, but if you face some kind of opposition or someone opposes your ideas, just be really careful about how you engage, and don't let it escalate into some kind of conflict. It's not worth it. And any kind of severe approach or extreme approach with this energy can absolutely alienate, can isolate, can create more destruction than what you were hoping for. So I would say if you see that opposition come in, let them oppose you. Let it come in. Let them have their say and their piece. You don't have to be right. You'll sort of prove them right you'll prove yourself right through your actions, through creating what it is that you're setting yourself up to create. So don't listen to the external noise. Don't let it get your goat. Just, let it kind of fall on deaf ears and allow yourself the space and the opportunity to pursue what it is you want to pursue at this time. This is a sort of an energy where if you have an idea, if those seeds are being planted at this time, keep it close to your heart. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. You can shout it from the rooftops once you hit the destination and once you can show people what you've created, how it works and why they need it or whatever, or how you've changed or whatever the case may be. But this is the point where things could be a little bit volatile. Things could be a little bit, feel a little bit I don't want to say unsafe, but insecure. And the more that you sort of share your seed with others, the more likely that people will try to deter you or oppose you or, squash your dream. Because unfortunately, that's sometimes what humans do. So keep it close to your heart. Call on the support team that you can trust to help you to build whatever this is, to create whatever this is, to take that first step, who will have the confidence in you, who will be your greatest cheerleader, and who will encourage you. This is not a week for, alerting your enemies of what it is that you're trying to do, because that's where you're going to face the opposition. That's where you're going to face the competition. And at this early stage, when things are still like just starting to begin, you don't want someone to put that fire out too quickly. So be mindful of how you engage this week. Be mindful of what you even share this week, what you put out into the world. This might be the time where you nurture your egg, right? This is your seed, your egg. So nurture it. Once it becomes strong enough, then share it with the world, because then you'll feel confident enough to be able to defend it, to not be easily deterred or easily influenced by people who don't want to see you succeed. So yeah, really powerful energy this week. Definitely can see a lot of change and transformation. But again, remember, we are the ones that have to put one foot in front of the other. Nobody's going to do it for us. They can try, and they certainly probably will. But we wouldn't get the same results, and we wouldn't be as satisfied if we let somebody else do it for us, because ultimately they'd be building their own dream, not ours. So yeah, I hope it's a great week. Enjoy and take that first step. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.